Hi, I welcome you all to this session where you'll get to know about the various losses which a light signal will undergo as it travels down an optical fiber. And also, you will get to know about the types of fiber optic sensors which are present. And taking you along on this journey is Dr. Yunus Jerusha, an assistant professor of physics. Data in the form of optical signals is best transmitted through an optical fiber. Fiber optic cable, which is lighter, smaller and more flexible than copper, can transmit signals with faster speed over longer distance. However, many factors can influence the performance of an optical fiber. To ensure the nice and stable performance of the optical fiber, many issues are to be considered. Fiber optic loss or signal attenuation is a negligible issue among them, and it has been a top priority for many engineers to consider during selecting and handling fiber optic cables. It determines the maximum unamplified or repeaterless distance between the transmitter and the receiver. Another loss which occurs in optical fibers is signal distortion or signal dispersion. Here, there is a broadening of the optical pulses due to the overlap with the neighboring pulses, creating errors at the receiver output. Due to this, there is a limit in the information carrying capacity of a fiber, or there is a decrease in the bandwidth of the optical fiber. When a beam of light carrying signals travels through the core of the optical fiber, the strength of the light will become lower. Thus, signal strength also becomes weaker. This loss of light power is generally called fiber optic loss or attenuation. This decrease in power level is described in decibel. The expression for attenuation or fiber optic loss is given by alpha is equal to 10 by L log P out by P in with the units decibel per kilometer, where L is the length of the optical fiber in kilometer, P out is the output power and P in is the input power. To transmit these optical signals smoothly and safely, fiber optic loss must be decreased. The cause of fiber optic loss located on two aspects are due to the internal reasons and external causes of the optical fiber, which are also known as intrinsic fiber core attenuation and extrinsic fiber attenuation. Based on the nature of the causes which bring about attenuation, it can be classified into two types. The first being intrinsic attenuation. Intrinsic attenuation can occur due to scattering or absorption due to various types of reasons which occur within the material. The second type of attenuation is the extrinsic attenuation. It can occur due to various types of radiative losses such as microbending and macrobending. Intrinsic attenuation will occur due to the presence of something inside the fiber, or it is going to be inherent to the nature of the fiber. When a light signal is hit by anything within the fiber, it either gets scattered or will be absorbed. Variations in the density of the materials used for the fabrication of the optical fiber and wavelength of the light travelling through the fiber are the causes for scattering loss. Light rays are scattered while travelling through such density variation regions. These scattering losses arise from the microscopic variations in the material density due to compositional fluctuations and inhomogeneities or defects occurring during fiber manufacture. Therefore, there are two types of scattering. The first one being linear scattering. This occurs due to a variation in the particle size on which the light falls. Linear scattering is further classified into Rayleigh scattering and Mie scattering. Rayleigh scattering occurs when the light falls on a density variation having a size less than 1/10 of the wavelength of the light. Mie scattering, on the other hand, occurs due to the particle size being greater than 1/10 of the wavelength of the light. These scatterings decrease dramatically with an increasing wavelength. The second type of scattering is nonlinear scattering, which is further classified as Raman scattering and Brillouin scattering. Scattering occurs due to elastic collisions between the light wave and the molecular level irregularities in the optical fiber structure. When scattering happens, light energy is scattered in all directions. Some of them keep travelling in the forward direction if the scattered light maintains an angle that supports travel within the core, and thereby no attenuation occurs. And the light not scattered in the forward direction will be lost in the fiber optic link. That is, when the scattered light occurs at an angle that does not support continued forward travel, light is diverted out of the core and attenuation occurs as shown in the picture. Thus, to reduce fiber optic loss caused by scattering, imperfections which are present in the fiber optic core should be removed and the fiber optic coating and extrusion should be carefully controlled. Absorption occurs by three different mechanisms in an optical fiber. Firstly, it is due to atomic defects. These are imperfections which are present in the amorphous structure of the fiber. Secondly, we have extrinsic absorption, which is due to the impurities present in the fiber material. Thirdly, intrinsic absorption. This absorption occurs in the electronic absorption band, which is in the UV region, and the atomic bond vibration band, which is there in the IR region. Absorption by atomic defects mainly occurs due to the amorphous nature of the material from which the optical fiber is fabricated. These imperfections are present due to the variations in the density of the atoms present along the length of the fiber. Some of the examples of such atomic defects are missing molecules, high density clusters of atom groups, oxygen defects in the glass structure. These absorption losses are negligible compared with intrinsic and impurity absorption, and they become significant if the fiber is exposed to ionization radiations. The dominant absorption factor in silica fibers is the presence of minute quantities of impurities in the fiber material. Some of the impurities present are hydroxyl ions, which are dissolved in the glass, transition metal ions such as iron, copper, chromium and vanadium. The origin of these impurities is, especially the hydroxyl ions, they occur from the oxyhydrogen flame which is used in the hydrolysis reaction of the starting materials. Intrinsic absorption is associated with the constituent atoms of the basic fiber material. It can be pure silica or various types of plastic material. Intrinsic absorption results from the electronic absorption bands which occur in the ultraviolet region. This electronic absorption occurs when a photon interacts with an electron in the valence band and excites it to a higher energy level. The electronic absorption is associated with the band gap of the material. Atomic vibration bands occur in the near infrared region. Atomic vibration bond occurs when an interaction between the vibration bond and the electromagnetic field of the optical signal results in a transfer of energy from the field to the bond and thereby giving rise to absorption. It is clearly observed from the attenuation loss spectrum that scattering occurs in the lower wavelength region and absorption occurs in the higher wavelength region. It is also observed or inferred that single mode fibers can operate in the higher wavelength region of 1310 nanometer or 1550 nanometer regions where attenuation is the lowest. This makes single mode fibers the best choice for long distance communications. Multimode fibers operate primarily at 815 nanometers and sometimes at 1300 nanometer. Multimode fibers are designed for short distance use. The higher attenuation at 850 nanometer is offset by the use of more affordable optical sources. The lower the wavelength, the less expensive the optics. Extrinsic attenuation in the form of bend losses are a frequently encountered problem in the context of waveguides and in particular in fiber optics, since optical fibers can be easily bent. Bend losses mean that optical fibers exhibit additional propagation losses by coupling light from core modes, that is guided modes, to the cladding modes when they are bent. Typically, these losses rise very quickly once a certain critical bend radius is reached. Critical radius can be very small, of the order of a few millimeters, for fibers with robust guiding characteristics when they have high numerical aperture, whereas it is much larger, often tens of centimeters, for single mode fibers with large mode areas. And depending on the type of bending which occurs in these optical fibers, there are two types of bending, the macro bending and the micro bending. Let's get an idea of what macro bending is all about. If a bend is imposed, strain is placed on the fiber along the region that is bent. The bending strain will affect the refractive index and the critical angle of the light ray in that specific area. Thus, light traveling in the core can refract out and loss occurs. Macro bending is reversible once the bends are corrected. A minimum bend radius specification should not be exceeded. This is a restriction on how much a bend a fiber can withstand before experiencing problems in optical performance or mechanical reliability. The typical bending radius of a fiber optic cable can be between 10 cm and 30 cm depending to a certain degree on the fiber count in the cable. Bending a fiber optic cable tighter than the specified bending radius can cause damage and even break the fiber carried in the cable. It can also lead to a dramatic increase in the fiber attenuation. Microbending, on the other hand, is a small-scale distortion generally indicative of pressure on the fiber. Microbending may be related to temperature, tensile stress, or crushing force. A reduction of optical power in the glass is the result. It is very localized and the bend may not be clearly visible upon inspection. With bare fiber, microbending may be reversible. But once this fiber is stable, it may not be reversed. Microbending losses can be minimized by pulling over a compressible jacket over the region where the microbend is present in the optical fiber. Any optical signal will weaken due to attenuation and broaden due to dispersion or distortion effects. This spreading of a light pulse as it travels down the length of a fiber is what is meant by dispersion or distortion. In the diagram shown, the input pulse is narrow, and as it travels through the optical fiber, there is a pulse broadening occurring. Pulses spread or broaden, tending to overlap and are no longer distinguishable by the receiver as zeros and ones. These high data rates combined with high dispersion result in errors and thereby a loss of information. It is clearly observed from the diagram that the input pulses, which are distinguishable and narrow, turn out to be indistinguishable and overlap with each other due to pulse broadening and have a reduced power at the receiver end as they travel down the length of the fiber. There are three different mechanisms by which dispersion occurs. Firstly, the modal dispersion or intermodal dispersion. Secondly, we have the chromatic dispersion, and chromatic dispersion is further classified into two as waveguide dispersion and material dispersion. And last of all, we have the polarization mode dispersion. Modal dispersion or intermodal dispersion occurs in multimode fibers. It is predominant in the step index multimode fiber and is minimized in the graded index multimode fiber. Single mode fibers do not have this dispersion to occur in them. Thus, modal dispersion is significant in multimode applications where various modes of light travel down the length of the fiber with the same speed but different distances and thereby arrive at the receiver at different times, causing a pulse broadening or spreading effect. Let me explain chromatic dispersion by means of an example. Let us consider a set of cars, red, yellow, green and blue, all waiting at the start line. Let us assume red travels with the highest speed and blue travels with the least speed. As the race progresses, say at around 1 kilometer, there is a 10-second difference between the red car and the blue car. And as the race progresses much further, say for 20 kilometers, and due to the increase in distance, the time difference also increases between the two cars, red and blue. Therefore, the red car arrives first, whereas the blue car arrives at the last. Red car here signifies the red color wavelength. Red has a higher wavelength and therefore travels with a higher velocity, whereas blue, having a lower wavelength, travels with a lower velocity. Therefore, different colors or different wavelengths travel with different velocities and arrive at the receiver at different times. This causes the pulse to spread or broaden, resulting in what is called as chromatic dispersion. Chromatic dispersion occurs due to a range of wavelengths in the light source. Light sources consist of a range of wavelengths. Each wavelength travels with a different speed. Over distance, the varying wavelength speeds cause the light pulse to spread in time, resulting in chromatic dispersion. Red travels faster and thereby arrives quicker. whereas orange travels slower and arrives later. This causes a broadening of the pulse at the receiver. We know velocity is proportional to wavelength, and thereby different colors or wavelengths in a light beam arrive at their destination at different times. These different wavelengths of light propagate at different speeds and thereby causes the light to break up, and the carrier signal is lost due to this disruption. And depending on how this chromatic dispersion occurs, there are two types of dispersion called as material dispersion and waveguide dispersion. Material dispersion arises due to the variation in the refractive index with the wavelength of light. Since the refractive index of a material is highly wavelength dependent, therefore different wavelengths will arise and travel due to different refractive indices which are present in the material. This material dispersion cannot be altered and is fixed for a given material, since the refractive index is intrinsic or inherent for a material. Therefore, the conclusion is that light rays carrying information pulses reach the other end of the fiber at different times, which lead to material dispersion. Waveguide dispersion is a chromatic dispersion occurring due to the waveguide effects or the light guiding property of the fiber. The origin of waveguide dispersion can be understood by considering that a guided wave has frequency dependent distribution of wave vectors k. Due to the power distribution in the core and the cladding, there is a dependency on the wavelength, and hence light travels slower in the core and faster in the cladding. Thus, different power distributions cause different wavelengths to travel at different speeds, giving rise to waveguide dispersion. Let's get to know what is called as the polarization mode dispersion. Single mode optical fiber consists of one propagation mode and is comprised of two orthogonal polarization modes. Asymmetrical differences in the fiber introduce small refractive index variations between the two modes, and hence there is polarization mode dispersion. When light is defined as an energy wave or energy region, it possesses two mutually perpendicular axes, the E axis, which is the electromotive force, and H axis, which is the magnetomotive force. The moment the energy inside these two axes transfers at different speeds in a fiber, this leads to polarization mode dispersion. The total dispersion occurring in an optical fiber is a sum of the waveguide dispersion and the material dispersion. Changing the waveguide dispersion, that is, altering the fiber design and balancing it against the material dispersion which is fixed, dispersion characteristics can be engineered to required values over preferred operating windows. It is observed from the chart that at 1300 nanometer, the zero dispersion occurs. Therefore, 1300 nanometer is called as the zero dispersion wavelength. Fiber optic sensor is a transducer which converts any form of signal into optical signal in the measurable form. Here, optical fibers are used as guiding media and hence are called as waveguides. The optical sources used here are LEDs or semiconductor lasers. The optical signals produced by the optical source is transmitted through the transmitting fiber into the modulation zone. The optical signals are modulated based on any one of these properties such as optical intensity, phase, polarization, wavelength, and spectral distribution. These modulated signals with any one of these properties are received by the receiving fiber and is sent to the optical detector such as CCDs, pin diodes, avalanche photodiodes, and various other types of photodetectors. There are two types of fiber optic sensors in use. The first being intrinsic or active sensor. In these active sensors, the physical parameter to be sensed directly acts on the fiber itself to produce the changes in the transmission characteristics. Some of the examples are pressure or temperature sensor and the liquid level sensor. The second type of fiber optic sensor is the extrinsic or passive sensor. In these passive sensors, separate sensing element will be used and the fiber will act as a guiding media to the sensors. Some examples are displacement sensor and the laser Doppler velocimeter sensor. An extrinsic fiber optic sensor uses an optical fiber cable, normally a multimode one, to transmit modulated light from either a non-fiber optical sensor or an electronic sensor connected to an optical transmitter. A major benefit of extrinsic sensors is their ability to reach places which are otherwise inaccessible. An example is the measurement of temperature inside aircraft jet engines and also to measure the internal temperature of electrical transformers. Extrinsic fiber optic sensors provide excellent protection of measurement signals against noise corruption. Extrinsic sensors are used to measure vibration, rotation, displacement, velocity, acceleration, torque, and temperature too. Intrinsic fiber optic sensors are used to measure strain, temperature, pressure, and other quantities by modifying a fiber so that the quantity to be measured modulates the intensity, phase, polarization, wavelength, or transit time of light in the fiber. Sensors that vary the intensity of light are the simplest, since only a simple optical source and optical detector are required. A particularly useful feature of intrinsic fiber optic sensors is they can, if required, provide distributed sensing over very large distances. The figure shown here depicts an intrinsic optical sensor. In this type, light rays do not come out of the fiber optic cable. They get changed inside the cable itself. And this is a perfect application wherein due to pressure applied between the two plates A and B, there will be a change in the light beam and hence the pressure is measured. The setup of a temperature or pressure sensor, which is an intrinsic fiber optic sensor, is shown here. It is based on the principle of interference between the beams which emerge out from the reference fiber and the test fiber which is kept in the measuring environment. It consists of a laser source which is used to emit a coherent beam of light. This laser beam is split by means of a beam splitter, which is a glass plate inclined at 45 degrees. L1 and L3 are lens systems which enable this split light beam to be forwarded onto two optical fibers The first fiber is the test fiber, which is kept in the measuring environment to sense the physical parameter. The second optical fiber is called as the reference fiber and it is isolated from the measuring environment. These two light signals which emerge out from the optical fibers are next sent to a lens system which is used to collect these two light signals called as L2. Let us now see how the setup which we just saw works as a temperature or pressure sensor. The monochromatic coherent laser beam which emerges out of the laser source is focused onto a beam splitter which is inclined at 45 degrees to the incident laser beam. The incident laser beam is now split into two beams which are at right angles to each other. They are called as the main beam which is focused onto a lens system L1 and a split beam which is focused onto a lens L3. The main beam is now allowed to fall onto the reference fiber, whereas the split beam is allowed to go through the test fiber which is placed in the measuring environment. These two beams which emerge out from their respective fibers are now allowed to fall onto a lens system L2. Due to a change in the phase, the polarization and the intensity of the light which emerges out of the test fiber, there will be a change occurring in the interference pattern which emerges out through the lens system L2. Therefore, a path difference is produced between these two beams which causes this interference pattern. Thus, a change in pressure or a change in temperature can be accurately measured with the help of the interference pattern thus obtained. The figure shown here depicts an extrinsic optical sensor called as the displacement sensor. When light beam leaves the fiber cable and gets changed due to the object before it reaches the optical detector end, it is known as an extrinsic optical sensor. In our case here, the distance L can be measured with this type of an optical sensor. The setup of a displacement sensor is shown here. The working principle for this displacement sensor is when light is sent through a transmitting fiber and is made to fall on a moving target, the reflected light from the target is sensed by a detector. With respect to the intensity of the light reflected from it, the displacement of the target is measured. Looking at this depiction of the various components which go into the displacement sensor, we can say that it consists of a bundle of transmitting fibers coupled to the laser source and a bundle of receiving fibers which is coupled to the detector. The axis of the transmitting fiber and the receiving fiber with respect to the moving target can be adjusted to increase the sensitivity of the sensor. Let us now see as to how this displacement sensor actually is used for the measurement of displacement of a moving target. The light from the source is transmitted through the transmitting fiber and is made to fall on the moving target. The light reflected from the target is made to pass through the receiving fiber and the same is detected by the detector. And based on the intensity of light which is received, we can very well show that the target is either moving towards the sensor or is moving away from the sensor. A higher intensity denotes that the target is approaching the sensor and a lesser intensity signifies that the target is moving away from the sensor, and thereby the displacement of the target or object can be measured accurately. Now for some differences between the intrinsic fiber optic sensor and the extrinsic fiber optic sensor. The intrinsic sensors are used in applications where the measurement of rotation, acceleration, strain, acoustic pressure, vibration, etc. are to be made, while extrinsic sensors are used in applications where measurement of temperature, pressure, liquid level and liquid flow are to be done. Intrinsic sensors are more sensitive while extrinsic sensors are less sensitive. Intrinsic sensors are tough to multiplex, whereas extrinsic sensors are easier to multiplex. Intrinsic sensors are prone to connection problems at the entry and exit points of the light source, whereas extrinsic sensors do not have much of connection related problems. Intrinsic sensors are easier to be used in varied applications, while extrinsic sensors need more elaborate signal demodulation. And finally, intrinsic sensors are less expensive, whereas extrinsic sensors are a lot more expensive. Now for some advantages of fiber optic sensors. Fiber optic cables are completely passive and therefore can be used in any kind of an explosive environment. Next, they are immune to electromagnetic interference, which makes them ideal for a microwave environment. They are resistant to high temperatures and chemically reactive environments and therefore can be suited for an application which is going to be harsh and hostile. It is small in size and therefore can be used for various embedding and surface mounting applications. It has a high degree of biocompatibility, non-intrusive nature and electromagnetic immunity. Therefore, it is suitable for medical applications such as intra-aortic balloon pumping. Fiber optic sensors can monitor a wide range of physical and chemical parameters. They have the potential for very high sensitivity, range and resolution. They complete electrical insulation from high electrostatic potential. They can be operated remotely over several kilometer lengths without any lead sensitivity. This is an important advantage which is ideal for deployment of these sensors in boreholes or measurements in hazardous environments. Multiplexed and distributed sensors are unique in that they provide measurements at a large number of points along a single optical cable. This is ideal for minimizing cable deployment and cable weight or for monitoring extended structures like pipelines, dams, etc. Due to the wide range of advantages which fiber optic sensors offer, they are used in a variety of applications such as in bridges, dams, for various security purposes, in the oil and natural gas industry, in tunnels, roofs, pylons, rails and even on the roads. Fiber optic sensors are used in automated welding of various automotive parts on a large scale. Fiber optic sensors are also used in bottle lid marking on the relay line. Also, price tagging of various colored fruits is done by the use of fiber optic sensors. Fiber optic cables are used for telecommunication purposes such as in long distance communication. Also, due to its large bandwidth, large number of channels are handled for communication. It can also be used for signaling purposes. They are used in computer networks such as LANs and WANs. Also, peripheral sharing can be carried out due to these fiber optic cables. It is also used in many applications in land-based, airborne and naval systems. Cable television networks also use fiber optic cables to transmit TV signals to houses. They are used in delay lines as a wideband delay line for microwave signal processing and also as various types of sensors. I do hope that you've understood today's session where we learnt about the various losses which occur in a light signal as it travels down a fiber. And also we saw about the various types of fiber optic sensors and a few examples along with their varied applications. Thank you for your patient listening.